Okay, so I think we're ready to proceed here. We will we will suspend our normal rules of operation, obviously, because of the systems that we're using and the video that we're using. I was asked by the Rules Committee to reach out to the town of Greenwich, to the RTM there, to talk to them about how they run voting. They gave me one of the longer emails I think I've ever seen about how they do it, and it just wasn't possible for us to try and start to adopt some of their procedures. So Kate looked at the system's capabilities, and we will try and do this a little bit differently. And Kate, you can explain, I think, basically the software that we're using has the ability to record who voted for what, right?
Correct.
And
so,
yeah, go ahead.
What will happen is a question will pop up on your screen. So if you want, I can show you what the first one looks like, just to do accepting the agenda.
Great.
So you should.
So
you should see a question. Yeah.
You can go ahead. You can vote yes, no, or abstain. So doing it this way, what you will be able to do is all vote together.
We won't have to do the raising of hands.
We don't have to do the raising of hands, and this should make it more efficient and quicker, perhaps. So we'll use that that procedure, except for acceptance of the agenda, which I'll ask unanimous consent for. But at least you can see how the system will work. Okay.
Okay.
Great. So I'll call the meeting to order. And
unmuted.
I would like to ask for a change to the agenda. Item 20-23, the lease is not ready yet. It's still being worked on. And so I would ask for a motion from the floor to postpone action on item 20-23 until the October 19 meeting of the RTM.
Looks like you've got several people moving it.
I so move.
You are?
I'm seconding.
Okay, I need the mover to, who made the motion to name
Yeah,
themselves?
I moved. Rolf Oben, I moved.
Thank you. And second from?
Yeah, Raymond.
Okay. Seth, I think on this one you need to do just a voice vote. Seth?
Myself for this. All in favor, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Great.
Aye.
I don't hear any no's, and I don't hear any abstention. Without objection, we'll accept the agenda as modified and move on to approval of the minutes of June 8th. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
I move Monica.
Second, Tom Moore.
Thank you. Any comments, question, issues, things that need to be changed? Okay, go ahead and vote.
Okay, Seth, looks like we're waiting for a few more people to vote, but it is overwhelmingly passing. You do have one no and some abstentions.
Okay,
Okay, I'm going to close the polling now.
all right. So, great. We'll now move on to item 20-21, appointment of Kevin Tresh to the Western Connecticut Tourism District. I was nominated by the Rules Committee to be the committee on this. So can I have a motion, please, to appoint Kevin Tresh to the Western Connecticut Tourism District?
Can we have someone raise their hand? All right.
Great. And a second, please.
Second, Tom Moore.
Thank you, Tom. Just for your information, the Connecticut Office of Tourism works to make tourism a leading economic contributor and a source of pride for Connecticut. And the state office, partners with these regional tourism districts. And we are in the Western Regional Tourism District. And so the role for the towns in the Western Regional Tourism District is to provide visitor and meeting information for 63 cities and towns for the Western region of the state. And we're in that group. And I would just note by way of background that Kevin is retired, but a former partner of Kirkland and Ellis, and has volunteered to serve in this capacity. Kevin, would you like to say hello?
Don't know that he's here, Seth.
Oh, okay. He said he was going to come, but
Seth, there's a question. Can you describe how Kevin was selected?
he was selected by the Board of Selectmen.
I believe Jamie's here. The first selectman is here if you want to speak, Jamie.
Yeah,
Sure.
did you want to add anything, or?
Sure, I'm here. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. We put out a solicitation into the community, to the Darien Chamber of Commerce, to the Darien Historical Society, and to the Mather Homestead Board to see if we could solicit interest in getting someone to want to sign on to the Western Tourism District who was with an agency that would have a vested interest in supporting tourism here in the town of Darien. And Kevin came forward, and we believe he's an excellent candidate, and we hope that you will approve his nomination this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Any other questions? Ready to vote? Go ahead and vote.
Okay, we have 93% voted yes, so you have a couple no's and some abstentions. So I'm going to close the poll. And the motion passes.
Wonderful. Next item on the agenda is consideration action on issuing of drainage easement to the state of Connecticut on the Oxford School property. I would say to you that we received late this afternoon some change in the wording of the easement. But the changes we received were not particularly of such a level as to affect the voting. The changes were not really material, and I'll ask town council just to explain briefly.
And Seth, people may be able to see it on the screen.
Yes, it's been posted on the screen there.
Wayne? Go ahead, Wayne.
Good evening. I think I would have to follow up on, I believe it was Kate's comment, that I think we will all be glad when we get back to meeting individually and in person rather than using the system, but it is what it is for the time being. Let me indicate briefly that, as you all know, I think you know, the Oxford Elementary School is about to go under some significant renovation. Kip Coons is the chairman of that committee. He and Seth and Jeremy have been working very hard to get this easement adopted, which they need to obtain. They're going to be able to go out to bid. The state, being the state, we've been in contact with them 2 weeks ago. Jeremy has worked very hard on it. They gave us a concept of what they wanted in form of what is called an easement to drain. We put that together, sent that to them a couple of weeks back. Everything seemed to be in order until about 3:30 this afternoon, in which they submitted this proposed change. I am happy to say that the change is of no significant modification to what your committees had reviewed and voted on. The most significant modification is that they deemed it appropriate, which I guess is their right, to describe in more detail, as you can see at the bottom of the first paragraph there, a more lengthy description of the map as is defined and added to as part of as an exhibit to this resolution and easement. So the concept is the same. What they're doing is the same. We are not giving up land per se. We're giving them the right to drain water onto our land, which they have done now for many years. So it doesn't change what has existed. The only change in this modification would be a more detailed description of the map in question.
Thanks, Wayne. So to put this on the table for discussion, Amy Barsante from Planning, Zoning, and Housing.
Yes. I just have one quick question before we move forward. The only question I have about the language is it refers to, as you said, a more descriptive map, which I think we all had access to, but the map we had access to was dated in July 2020, and this one is specifically referring to a date map last revised on August 25th. I just want to make sure there were no material changes in the map that would have any bearing on the conversation before we move forward.
Fair question. I'll respond to that if you'd like, Seth.
Or
Yes,
Jeremy's here.
Oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay, Jeremy Ginsburg, Planning and Zoning Director. You know, Amy, that's an excellent question because Wayne Fox and I spent 5 minutes this afternoon looking at, as you could see, the July 2020 map and what changed between the July 2020 map and the August 25th map. There were three things that changed. One is the name of the chief engineer in the bottom right corner of the plan that DOT gave us an example, and the person drawing the plans used the example literally without updating the name of the current transportation chief engineer at DOT. The other change was in the earlier version, in the middle of the page, it said right to drain with how many square feet, and it pointed to an area that said right to drain. DOT took out references to right to drain and changed it to easement to drain. The final change was putting that revision date in the bottom left corner of the plan, saying it was revised in August 25th, 2020. So the changes were not substantive in any way, rather just to correct the proper name of the engineer and to be consistent with the wording easement to drain.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. That's very clear. Thank you. Okay,
so Amy, go ahead and move it and give us your lovely report.
Sure thing. So this is Amy Barsanti, District 1, Chairman of the RTM Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee. I move resolution 2022, consideration and action on the issuing of a drainage easement being issued to the state of Connecticut on the Oxford School property. Do I have a second?
I see hands raised.
Okay. Without objection, I will waive the reading of the resolution. Okay. On September 17th, the Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee met online via GoToMeeting. We had 8 members of our 13-person committee present, representing a quorum. Jeremy Ginsburg from Planning and Zoning was also present. The state of Connecticut considers the school to be a major traffic generator and therefore requires a permit from the Office of State Traffic Administration. As a condition for this application of this permit, the state is requiring an easement to drain over the school property. This easement would formalize conditions and water flow patterns that have existed informally for over 50 years. The proposed access way to the school property will remain materially the same with no significant changes in location or curbing. Water flow patterns are envisioned to be consistent with existing conditions. As part of the property redevelopment, there will be additional underground water abatement systems will be installed. Our committee, after discussions with Jeremy and our questions and answer session, we were satisfied that the proposed abatement systems would only improve existing conditions and see no reason to oppose the resolution. Our group voted unanimously in favor of the resolution and recommend the same to the full RTM.
Thank you, Amy. For Public Works, Monica McNally.
Hi, good evening. I'm Monica McNally, District 2, Chairman of Public Works. At a special meeting on September 15th, 10 of 12 Public Works Committee members met virtually to discuss and act on Resolution 20-22, authorizing the easement to drain to the Department of Transportation, State of Connecticut. Planning and Zoning Director Jeremy Ginsburg joined the meeting to provide an overview and answer any questions or concerns. I won't go through all of the background that Amy provided very thoroughly. As you heard, water from Mansfield, a state highway, has been flowing informally onto this property for many, many years. The committee discussed the flow and the collection of this water. The catch basin is currently on the school property and was designed to handle the flow received. This resolution formalizes the successful drainage flow arrangement that is already in place, and this permit is needed to get the bidding process started for the new Oxford School. The committee, with 10 of 12 members present, voted unanimously in favor to approve Resolution 20-22 and recommend the same to the full RTM. Thank you.
Oh, great. Monica. For the Education Committee, Clara Sartori.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. The Education Committee met remotely on Thursday, September 17th, with 9 of 13 members present to discuss the resolution. David Deneen, Vice Chair of the Board of Ed and Co-Chair of the Oxbridge Building Committee, and Alan Adley, Superintendent of Schools, joined the meeting along with William Walter of Tie and Bond. The Education Committee was asked to report on this item because as a condition of approval of the OSTA permit, the state is requesting a drainage easement on the Oxbridge property. It is noted that the easement formalizes an existing condition. Concern was expressed by the committee that use of the word easement was too broad in scope, allowing DOT Connecticut to access to the Oxbridge property forever, as described in the language of the supporting documents. It was suggested that we see if language could be used to limit the scope of the easement. Will Walter of Tie and Bond explained that the intent was to have water go over the site, that the easement was for a right to drain, and that from an owner point of view, the language used was preferable. Committee members suggested we contact Jeremy Ginsburg of Planning and Zoning to see if he could provide clarification, and he did so, noting that the town council had reviewed and written much of the easement to drain documents based on guidance from the OSTA DOT. The committee voted unanimously to approve this resolution and recommends that the RTM do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Are there any comments from the floor?
Seth, you still need an amendment.
Oh, 1 second here. On the, to amend to meet the new language?
Correct.
Okay. Can I have a motion to amend 20-22 to include the new language on the easement to drain?
So moved.
Second, Monica.
Thank you. Comments,
Question, Tom Moore.
questions? Yeah, Tom.
Can someone explain the compensation the state is providing the town of Darien, considering they've been dumping water on this property for some time, and it seems that we're not being compensated appropriately for the fact that they're holding up the project?
Is there
Wayne,
anyone?
can you handle that, or Jeremy?
I can.
Wayne?
Go ahead, Jeremy. Want me to?
Yeah, Wayne, why don't you take this and I'll chime in.
The consideration is the willingness to allow the project to go forward and to grant the permit that we are seeking. This is a condition of that permit being granted by the state of Connecticut. That's the consideration we are receiving.
Question, I appreciate that, although it seems like you're being held up.
Actually, Jeremy Ginsburg, Planning and Zoning Director. I think one of the keys here, Tom, is we do need the permit from Steph.
Hold on.
Somebody unmute, please. Unmute.
Okay, we're good.
Jeremy Ginsburg, Planning and Zoning Director. This OSTA permit is required due to the amount of parking spaces and the nature of what's being constructed there in terms of the size of the building. And frankly, this is a common practice at DOT, whether it's Whole Foods or any other large traffic generator. They call it major traffic generator, that DOT can pretty much impose whatever requirements they want. And we could spend the next 3 to 6 months arguing with them and debating it with them. However, in this case, for them to only require the easement to drain, I think, frankly, it's a no-brainer. You may recall that when Whole Foods had to do their project, they had to redesign exit 11. So I think in this case, we could hold it. The choice would be, if it doesn't go through, we loop back to the school, loop back to the DOT and try arguing with them and debating it with them. But frankly, in this case, the town has no leverage in terms of getting this amended. So I wish I could give you better news than that, but frankly, I think this is an easy choice for the town, because this is really something that's been going on for many years, and the drainage system that the town is including as part of this project will help not only the state, it's going to help many downstream property owners. So that was very instrumental in getting Planning and Zoning Commission approval, was making sure that that new drainage system in the back of the school meets current standards and will have less water going downstream in the future.
Thank you, Jeremy. Additional comments?
Seth,
Seeing,
Janet Grogan has her hand raised.
okay, Janet? Janet?
Janet Grogan.
Yes, I put my hand down.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Didn't want to miss anybody. Additional comments? Okay, let's proceed to vote.
Okay. Did you vote on the amendment, Seth?
This would be on the
Um,
amendment, Seth.
You need to
Wait,
vote
I
on
do
the
that-
amendment first.
This is the amendment, yes. This is voting on the amendment.
And I would suggest taking, because I didn't have that prepared, taking a voice vote, maybe call for
Yeah.
the noes.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody, to simplify this, bear with us here. I would take a voice vote. All those in favor, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Noes, please? Hearing none, the ayes have it. The amendment is passed. Now we'll vote on the entire item as amended. Go ahead and vote.
Body produced by the New Canaan Health and Human Service Commission. Think of this series of fall programs offered as kind of like a local hug to help you and your family to get through the pressures of today's COVID-based stresses in your life.
Please, somebody mute their.
Okay, I got that.
Hospital and the appointed director of behavioral health for the town of New Canaan.
Muted.
Okay, Seth, I would say you're good that the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll now move past 2023, which is moved over to October 19.
Seth, we lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but this thing muted on me for some reason. Anyway, for the Finance and Budget Committee, Jack Davis.
Let me find him.
Please.
Yeah, I just had to find him because I had to mute everybody because I couldn't find that random. Okay. Jack?
I'm Jack Davis, Chairman of the RTM Finance and Budget Committee. I move Resolution 2024 authorizing the first selectman to accept a steep grant if awarded and enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, and documents necessary to obtain said grant. Do I have a second?
I see hands raised.
If there's no objections, I move to waive the reading of the resolution. For the first time in several years, the state has funded a small town economic assistance program. This grant, if awarded, can be up to $128,205, which is the maximum grant. The grant requires a town to provide some matching funds that the plan is consistent with the state plan for conservation and the town plan for conservation and is a capital project. In addition, it cannot be a capital project that is completed or mostly completed. Based upon the review of available projects, the Board of Selectmen chose Highland Farms landscaping project that includes screening, plantings, a pollination highway, and other aspects. The Board of Selectmen believe that the Highland Farms project best fits the state's requirement for receiving a STEP grant. The preliminary submission approximates $92,000. The designer, Dan Biggs, has met with the neighbors. If the town receives the grant, further meetings with the neighbors as well as a public hearing will be held based upon the statements at the last Board of Selectmen meeting. I anticipate more will be discussed by the RTM Park and Rec Committee report, which will follow mine. The RTM is being requested to do tonight is to authorize the town and the first selectman to apply for and accept a state grant and enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, documents necessary to obtain said grant up to $128,000. It's not to review every aspect of what was presented. This authorization from a legislative body, us, the RTM, is required for the town to receive said grant. Again, this should be a no-brainer for a town to receive funds from the state to advance this project, as Darien typically is hard-pressed to receive any state funding. The F&B committee at its September 16th meeting with Kate Bush present and with 15 of 17 members present, voted unanimously to approve this resolution and recommend the same to the full RTM.
Thank you, Jack. For the Parks and Recreation Committee, Adele Coniff.
Adele Coniff, District 3. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank you. Had a little trouble with the unmuting. Adele Coniff, District 3, RTM Parks and Recreation Committee Chairman. 2024, consideration and action on acceptance of a STEEP grant, Small Town Economic Assistance Program grant. On September 14, 2020, the RTM Parks and Recreation Committee met with 10 of 13 members present, constituting a quorum. The committee reviewed Darien's STEEP grant for funding for landscaping near the parking lot, along the walking trail, and for installation of a pollinator pathway at Highland Farm. The grant request is for $92,000. The town has paid Weston and Sampson $8,700 from the capital fund to prepare a landscape plan for Highland Farm. Weston and Sampson spoke with neighbors and a pollinator pathway representative as part of their design process. The selectmen plan for Highland Farm to be an all organic property, and the expectation is that the property will be pesticide free. There are no trash cans at Highland Farm. It is a pack it in, pack it out property. Once the grant is awarded, the town will review the award, checking there are no unwanted stipulations before it is accepted. Any unused funds from the grant would be returned to the state of Connecticut. The RTM Parks and Recreation Committee voted unanimously for acceptance of funding from the STEEP grant. We hope that the full RTM will accept the grant funds too. Thank you.
Thank you, Adele. Are there any other committees? Any comments from the floor? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote.
Give me a second. Okay, I think everybody's voted and the motion carries.
Wonderful. We'll now move on to item 20-25. The consideration and action on submission for COVID-19 expenses to get reimbursed by the state of Connecticut for public health and safety. Mac Patrick.
Yeah, hi, good evening. I'm Mac Patrick, Chairman of District 5 and Chairman of Public Health and Safety. I move Resolution 20-25, consideration and action on submission of COVID-19 related expenses to the state of Connecticut for reimbursement. Do I have a second?
Second, Tom Moore.
Great, thank you, Tom. With no objections, I will waive the reading of the resolution. The Public Health and Safety Committee met on September 16, 2020 in a go-to meeting. It was a special meeting, and we had 14 of 17 members present. Jennifer Charneski, Darien's finance director, joined the committee for the meeting. Jennifer informed the committee about the various funding sources for COVID-19 expense reimbursement. Through June 30th, the town and Board of Education together have approximately $490,000 in expenses due to the virus. It is expected that the state will allocate additional funds for expenditures incurred after July 1st. Connecticut has created the Municipal Coronavirus Relief Fund, or CRF. The RTM must approve the town submissions for CRF funds. The Public Health and Safety Committee 100% approved a motion to approve the authorization of a municipal CRF submission up to $40,282. It's the maximum for expenses incurred through June 30th. We ask that the full RTM do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mac. For
Thank
the
you.
Finance and Budget Committee, Jack Davis.
I'm Jack Davis, District 3 Chairman of the RTM Finance and Budget Committee. I'm not going to reiterate things that were just said by Mac. There is a priority that other sources of funding has to be done before it's sent to FEMA. FEMA reimburses 75% of the approved expenditures. The CRF covers the 25% not reimbursed by FEMA, as well as non-FEMA approved expenses. Currently, in our first submission that we have, the expenses are $26,227.26, but we're waiting for the second submission from FEMA, which we hope to have before the extended submission deadline of October 31st. And if we have that, then the amount for the reimbursement will be increased. Again, the total CRF for Darien is capped at $40,282 before June 30th. And today we're authorizing the approval by approving this resolution for the town of Darien to submit a request for reimbursement up to $40,282. At our meeting on September 16th with 15 of 17 members present, we voted unanimously to approve this resolution and recommend the same to the full RTM. Again, I want to mention that the legislative body is required to approve this prior to the submission being done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Now for the Education Committee, Clara Sartori.
Clara, you need to unmute.
Doesn't work very well sometimes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The Education Committee met remotely on Thursday, September 17th, with 9 of 13 members present to discuss the resolution. David Deneen, Vice Chair of the Board of Ed and Co-Chair of the Oxbridge Building Committee, and Alan Adley, Superintendent of Schools, joined the meeting. The Education Committee was asked to report on this item because it includes funds intended for the Darien Public Schools based on expenses through June 30th, 2020. Mr. Deneen explained the process that the Board of Ed will use to request reimbursement for expenses related to COVID-19. He referenced a memo prepared by the district guidance on allowable expenses. The district has incurred expenses of more than $2 million for personnel, cleaning, PPE, health, transportation-related expenses related to COVID-19 to date. The Education Committee voted unanimously to authorize the submission of the request to the state of Connecticut under the Municipal Coronavirus Relief Fund in the amount of $40,282 and ask that the RTM do the same. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Clara. Are there any other committees? Any comments from the floor? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote.
Okay, it looks like everybody's voted and the motion the motion passes.
Wonderful. I just want to say that how much I appreciate, and we all appreciate, Kate's work here, because this has flowed very smoothly, and it's her taking advantage of certain capabilities in the system that made this thing work so well tonight. So Kate, from all of us, many, many thanks. Nice job.
Yeah, apologies for checking my email during the meeting, but I had some RTM members who couldn't get in, and I guess you all saw that.
Well, if that relatively minor as to what could have happened. So I'm glad that this worked so well, and we appreciate all the work you did to make this flow so well. That being said,
Seth, I have a point of order.
Yes.
It's Patrick Kane. Just a question about the voting. Typically, I know that we're in unusual circumstances, but typically the tallies are read out. Are the tallies for these various votes either electronically, well, obviously not the voice votes, but the electronic votes, will they become a part of the record?
Right.
Yeah.
So during the
Go ahead.
meeting, what I get, like, for example, on the last resolution, what I can see is that 98% voted yes, nobody voted no, 2% abstained. So without doing the math in my head, I can't tell you what the exact vote was, because there are 88 people in attendance, but there's a couple of guests. So after the meeting is over, I can run a report that shows exactly how everybody voted, and that will become part of the record.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Great. Well, then I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
And I think you've got it from.
Moved.
Overwhelming. And a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
I hear no no's. You're all, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, Seth.
Unmuted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.